What is a quality assurance plan in construction? I'm stoked about this because there's a big difference between quality assurance and quality control. And we have to get to the point from a lean perspective where we have quality at the source and we prevent defects before they even happen. That's essentially what quality assurance is. And so we're going to dig into some definitions here, and I'm going to give you some really cool ideas that we can start to discover together. And I think you're going to enjoy it. So this will be a quick video. Let's do it. All right, so what is the difference between quality assurance and quality control in construction? Quality assurance is a preventative system. It will set up processes, systems, environments, and controls to prevent quality defects from ever happening. Quality control is reactive, and it attempts to identify quality defects when they happen through inspections. And it's really interesting. I'm preparing right now to go to Japan on a study trip with Paul Akers, the author of 2 Second Lean and the owner of FastCap. If you haven't checked him out, he's absolutely fantastic. And he had us do some initial studying before we go to Japan. I mean, Japan's like a whole other world. It doesn't matter who, oh my gosh, I got to do something real quick. So it doesn't matter who goes there, whether it's Jimmy Kimmel or Donald Trump or Barack Obama or whoever, or a movie star, it doesn't matter. They go there and they're like, they even mentioned it on South Park. There's a whole South Park episode about Japanese toilets. Like, it's a whole other world. It's clean, it's safe, it's respectful, it's got visual signage. Everybody's so courteous, they're friendly, hardworking, they have the longest life expectancies. I mean, it's just fantastic. It's like you're going to a different planet. Now, people criticize me because they're like, Jay Money, we live in the United States. Like, why are you so high on Japan? Well, let me break it to all of us, including me. Inside the studies and the books that Paul had us study before going to Japan, one of the books was The History of Japan, and another one was an article that talked about lessons that we have forgotten. In World War II, when we sent, and this is how they talked back then, so I'm just going to mimic it. We sent all of our boys over to war. Not all of them, but many of our younger folks. They left the factories, and women and older men went into the factories. And by the way, I love men and women. I love equality. I'm just saying, back in the day, that's what happened. Women came from being homemakers into the factories. Men went off to war. In a year, the United States ramped up an economic, industrial powerhouse and logistical producing powerhouse, the likes of which the world has never before seen or replicated. Meaning that we ramped up production in a year faster than anything that's ever been done in history. And this was with, and by the way, women and older men are brilliant. My point is, they were new to this environment. With women and older men who were being brought into factories, the Bureau of Labor in the federal government immediately created manuals and implemented production science and production theory to teach these new leaders and workers how to produce at an accelerated rate. They essentially implemented lean manufacturing. And they learned all of these beautiful lessons and became a powerhouse. Now, this is what happened. This is why we forgot. After World War II, the women and older men left the factories and went back home, and our boys that came home from war were like, I don't need these newfangled techniques. We just defeated the Nazis. There's nothing else. We can do anything, right? And so, sure, we're awesome. Sure, we're the United States, but we went into a period of amnesia. We forgot these lessons that we had learned. But Japan was humbled and devastated after World War II, and the United States poured in so much money to make them an economic superpower and a democracy because we wanted a buffer between us and China. And so the Japanese took their island culture of total participation and implemented all of these techniques. And one of the biggest things that happened is Dr. W. Edwards Deming taught the Japanese about total quality management and about how we need to get rid of inspections and actually prevent quality defects from ever happening at the source. And so when I talk about lean construction in Japan and what we're learning, these are lessons that were originally learned from the United States. It is not a United States theme or persona or culture, or shouldn't be, to just go produce things and inspect them and redo them. It is actually a part of our original culture to prevent the mistakes from ever happening in the first place. And so the United States used to be about quality assurance instead of quality control. We forgot that. but the Japanese learned it from us, brought it to their nation, and now they literally live this, like quality at the source concept. And so now when we learn from them, we're like, the Japanese people are amazing, but they have successfully implemented and maintained lessons learned in the United States. So here are some questions. Who creates the quality assurance plan? The general contractor does with the trade partners, but I don't want this long document that doesn't really do much good. We need real measures, which I'll talk to you about in a minute. How does quality assurance show up daily on the construction site? Now let me tie this back to the quality assurance plan. Again, not a huge document. I want something that's preventative. I've been able to, on certain projects, distill down the quality assurance plan to like a couple pages and some really nice posters and visuals. It basically needs to be visual and simple. But let me talk to you about the difference between quality assurance and quality control. So let's talk about this. The trade partner preparation process, where we're doing pre-con and preparatory meetings, that's quality assurance. We're getting it right ahead of time. Creating a visual of expectations for what the installation is going to be like is quality assurance. Using a checklist, and if you don't believe in checklists, read the checklist manifesto. Using checklists to install from the start is a quality assurance program. My buddies over at Petticoat Schmidt, they have this yard that they call the Guild. They go out and train crews in a mock-up with first run studies before they ever hit the site. That's quality assurance. So let me just dig deeper on that. A mock-up, a first run study, being really clear about expectations before we start. That's quality assurance. Quality control circles, where people will QC their work in crews in short interval cycles, that's quality assurance. Walks in the field, that's quality assurance. Zone control walks, that's quality assurance. Having visual signage right then and there, quality assurance. Jigs and templates that make sure that we get things right from the start, that's quality assurance. Field engineering, where we double check things before placements and enclosing it, that's quality assurance. Now inspections, which we do have to have, and doing after the fact checks, that's quality control. Okay, so I hope you see the difference. And so when you create a quality assurance plan, we need to know how are we going to get ahead of this in key creative ways. And in manufacturing, they've taken this to the next level, right? They use AI or visual controls or quick mechanisms that will not allow a defect to be passed down to the next station. They also have an and-on button or an and-on cord. In construction, the best I've been able to do is to say, we're going to implement all these quality assurance methods, but every crew has the authority to stop the work if they see something wrong right then and there. And I was actually pretty effective with it, because I said we will never pass down defective work. Columns out askew, we're tearing it down. Drywall's not a quarter of an inch off the floor, we're ripping it off. We will not accept work. So crews got to the point where they're like, nobody's going to accept this. We can either rip it out, Jason's going to make us rip it out, or we can just quality assure, QA this right now, so that even before anybody QCs it and inspects it later, it's right. Right? So creating that quality at the source culture is super key. And so I just want you to know that we can get there. It's going to take a lot of work to get to a quality assurance culture. But my closing point is it does have to be a culture. If you get onto a site where you have morning worker huddles and you visit with the workers every day, every crew has a visual quality feature of work board or checklist to install. Every first in place zone or work package is inspected as a first in place mock-up. Every day there are zone control walks inspecting the work, and the GC says we will never accept a delayed punch list or a lack of quality before the crew moves on. That culture is going to be like, yeah, we better just finish it right while we're here. We better just do it right now. And it starts to work when the leaders, the project delivery team, care about it. So what is a quality assurance plan in construction? In summary, it's that we know the expectations, the crew know the expectations, and we're committed to getting it right from the start instead of inspecting it and reworking it later. This is such an interesting topic. I'm going to leave you some book references in the description below and turn this into a little blog post for you. I hope you've enjoyed this. On we go.